So I want to talk to you guys about how to acquire more customers through your social media strategy. I get asked this question a lot through clients, potential prospects, leads, and just overall people who are looking to amplify and boost their social media presence. The thing with social media that we want to keep in mind in today's landscape throughout the internet is that there are millions and billions of people who use, engage, share, like, and also post content to social media every day. A lot of these people are your potential customers, they're your leads, they're even people who are in your industry as well. And so to beat out the competition, but also to build rapport with your clientele, with your consumer base, you really want to be active on your social media channels, how you target, what type of content and copy you post, and how you're going about doing those things. And so I created a guide through Start Mark Our Agency, since we've been successfully helping clients create strategy, content, copy, etc., and creative to help you guys with how to DIY your social media strategy if you want to take on the challenge. So let's jump right into it. The agenda we'll talk about today is targeting the right customers, creating an optimized social media plan, curating good content, and promoting through your social networks. What is a social media plan? As simple as that question is, a lot of people don't know what it is specifically. So I want to get right down to the depth of it. A social media plan outlines your company goals and strategies that is actionable through the use of promoting engaging content to build brand authority and rapport. What does that mean? It means if you're brand X and you're trying to acquire consumers who are Y, you have to have a list of necessary steps of how you're going to promote to them. Why? Because having a website in today's landscape isn't necessary. How are you actually going to get those customers and potential leads and prospects to your website? A lot of times you do it through social media marketing. A lot of times you can do it through organic traffic. And so the organic approach and the organic components associated with that is have really, really good content, really, really good copy through your social media channels that aim to educate. And why I really want to focus on education, we're going to talk about it a little bit more in depth as we move along, is that when you aim to educate consumers, you really hone in on solving their problem. Because think about it, if you just go and you just promote who you are, nobody likes anybody arrogant, right? It's the same thing with your company. If you only go on social media and you only talk about your services, how you can make the world a better place, and your pricing, then that's just an advertisement. And so in today's landscape, even big Fortune 500 companies and advertisers, they're moving away from that model because it's a model that's broken. It doesn't build rapport, it's not effective engagement, and people don't like to be talked to. They want a conversation. And the best way to open up a conversation is through engagement. And the best way to do that is through a social media platform because it's a two-way form of conversation, and also it builds community. And so when you aim to educate, you're building not only effective rapport with your consumer demographic, but you're also creating a bond, and you're standing out from the competition, which is also something to keep in mind. Because if your competitors are not doing it in that way, in that strategy, let's say they're only throwing money at advertisements, they haven't really thought about their social media plan, you're going to win more and not beat your competition because you actually took time to create effective content that engages, answers questions, educates, builds rapport, and then drives consumers back to your website. And so that's why having an effective social media plan is so important in today's landscape. A lot of companies don't take the necessary steps and components to do it because it is time consuming. But if you do it effectively and you do it right, you can definitely increase your traffic organically without having to throw money at paid advertising. Paid advertising, SEM, boosts and it helps, but it's not a necessary component if you want to do it organically. So this also saves money. It also increases your conversion rate of your consumers time over time. Creating an actionable plan. The first step that you want to actually do is create an audit. So you want to ask yourself, What is your current social landscape, right? Who is my audience? What do they look like? What do they buy? Why do they buy from me? What problem am I solving? Once you do an audit, it also helps build a stronger brand and a closer brand to who you are and what you can do for your consumers. Next question you want to ask is, who's your target market? Who's your customer? And what are the opportunities that you can solve? So let's say brand X is solving a problem for Y. Well, once you do an audit, there's more opportunities that you can solve that you haven't thought about prior. And so that's why doing an audit is really, really important if you do it the correct way. The first step to doing an audit is asking yourself the proper questions and then answering them. Once you answer those questions, you'll then have much more of a defining content landscape that you can create a schedule off of and promote through blog posts, through website copy, through social media content, etc. So doing those things definitely helps to build rapport with your audience much more effectively. Next up is creating content. I really want to touch base on creating what content is, and let's talk about what content is. Content is any form of media, copy, advert, anything, any component that sends a message to your consumer, your target audience. The difference is, how do you create good content? Because creating good content is what helps companies stand out from the competition, opposed to just creating content. For example, if you're brand X and you focus on creating 100 blog posts a month versus the competitor who focuses on only creating 10 blog posts per month, but those 10 blog posts that they create and 10 social media posts that they create is very definitive in terms of who they are as a brand. They have stats, it's educational material, right? The second company is going to win more customers over time than the first company who's just putting out random content or just content, right? Just because they think that's a winning strategy. Same thing with social media. If you're only putting out content just to stay relevant, that's not building effective engagement or rapport with your target audience. You really want to focus on curating good content. And curating good content and copy that links back to your website is also going to drive traffic. So keep that in mind when you're creating a content strategy for your social media feed. Your branding voice is very important as well. So as I stated recently, you really want to focus on education. But aside from that, what's the tonality of your brand? How do you set that? And we're going to go more in depth into this furthermore. But start to think about that as you're creating your content, because it will help you stand apart, and it also will keep you very, very niche focused and centralized on your targeted message. Set targeted and defined goals as well. Don't just post content just to post it. Make sure you have a goal in mind. Whether it's increase conversion, whether it is to increase engagement, social shares, awareness, visibility. Understand what your goal is, because if you understand what your goal is, you then will create the correct type of copy and content that drives traffic directly to your target audience. The next part is engagement. So I speak a lot about education, educating your target audience while remaining conversational to build greater rapport. And so what this is a two-way street that allows you, the company, and the brand to have a conversation. The minute that you start to have a conversation with your consumers is the minute that you've won. Why? Because like I stated, there's a lot of companies who only focus on promoting who they are, whether it's a service company, a product company, e-commerce, etc., but they don't educate. They don't build rapport. And so it's just like dating, right? If you go on a date and a person is only talking about themselves, what they've accomplished, who they are, why you should date them, it's going to shy you away. The same thing applies to companies and brands. If you only talk about who you are, why you're the best company, why people should choose you over the competition, you haven't built effective rapport. Versus if you give trend stats, reports, educational material, you show case studies, etc., and you're promoting good content that they can relate to, it also goes into great branded content and storytelling. So keep that in mind as well. Lastly, when creating an actionable plan, you want to put a plan in place to measure, right? So how are you measuring results? How are you reporting? What's the analytics associated with it? What's the data? How are you optimizing your content? Creating a consumer persona. This is very key. So this ties into the last slide. Who is my target market? Who is my audience? Who am I promoting to, right? So when doing this, you want to understand and have an understanding of your overall industry, the scope, and who's buying from you. For example, if I'm a healthcare company or I'm a sports company or yoga company or fitness company, this is what my consumer persona may look like. We made up a name, Jacob, right? The age 33, in terms of demographic research. Jacob's interest is sports, marketing, and health. His role at his company is marketing director. Let's take a look at Ashley. She's 27. Her interest lies in sports, public relations, and physical therapy. Her company role is a project manager. When you have a consumer persona, you then have a way better chance of effectively targeting who that consumer is. Because you understand the way that they think. Psychographic information, demographic information, strategies aligned, content, copy, etc. For example, if I'm a healthcare company, or I'm a sports company, or yoga company, or fitness company, and I have no clue who I'm targeting, but I'm creating copy that resonates with 45 people or 45 plus, versus if my main target audience is 22 to 30, there's a huge disconnect there. And so this is why you want to walk through the steps of creating a consumer persona, because it allows you to then become who your consumer is. Once you get in the mind of marketing to yourselves, you can then replicate that and market to your target audience. And so Jacob, for example, if he's interested in sports, marketing, and health, you can tie in sports stats, health stats, creative content that closely resonates with marketing. The same thing for Ashley. PR, physical therapy, and sports, you could tie in copy and content that resonates with her as a consumer. What does this do in the back end for your brand through social media? It builds effective engagement and rapport. I can't stress that enough. That's all it is. Social media is nothing more or less. It's just a promotional tool to create a conversation. A brand is a really good story. Marketing is really good conversations. Look at it from that angle, and it would directly increase your engagement, your visibility, awareness, and organic traffic. Education. Consistent social media conversion starts with creating content that aims to educate your target audience rather than just promoting your services. I stress a lot about education because it's the one thing and it's the one component that closely resonate and aligns with all of us. If you're a brand, if you have good content, it's educational, it's informing me of things that I didn't know while building rapport, and it's explaining how it's going to solve my problem, you're going to be the top of mind when I go to make that purchasing decision. And so customers, they want to ensure their confidence in their decision-making process throughout the buyer's journey. And how you do that is through educating that. You educate that and you become a thought leader. The minute that you become a thought leader in your industry is the minute that you gain a lot more traffic. You gain a lot more following, a lot more leads, prospects, clients, right? It just follows. It's a funnel. So focus on creating really, really good content. It's educational, and promote it, and promote it, and promote it. Now remember, when you're promote it and remain consistent through all your social media channels and profiles. Don't just use one form of content promotion to promote your material. Whether it's Twitter, Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, etc. Understand where your buyers are and then promote that content throughout those social media channels. Setting SMART goals. What are SMART goals? Number one, they're specific. Number two, they're measurable, right? So what's the data associated? How are we analyzing? How are we doing A/B testing? How are we staying relevant? Number three, they're attainable. Do not set a goal to want to increase your conversion rates by 50% if you're only going to post 5 social media posts to 2 accounts per month. It's not going to happen. So is it an attainable goal? Is it relevant? Is it time-based? So you want to ask yourself these questions and set SMART goals with definitive next steps and strategies. That way, you're being more targeted with your goals and you're saving time. Tonality. Once you have defined who you are as a brand, what you stand for, your mission, and your values, you can then move forward in setting your tone to build your brand voice. What does this mean? Building your brand voice. Let's go back to the consumer persona, a few slides up. If you're a fitness company and your demographic is from 22 to age 30, but you're creating social media copy that resonates with a demographic that is 45 plus, you have a huge disconnect, and it's going to greatly impact your brand. You're not going to get as many conversions. You're not going to get as many people to sign up. You're not going to get as much traffic to your website. You're not going to get people to stay on. You're not going to get people to engage in conversation through your social media feeds and accounts. So the tonality of your brand has to match who you are as a company. That same thing translates throughout your social media content and copy. Your messaging is only as strong as who you are as a brand. Practice what you preach is something that closely resonates with tonality of branding. So as I stated, branding is a really good story. Marketing is a really good conversation. So those two things coincide with one another. And so when you're doing that, remind yourself that you have to stay consistent. Social media does not happen overnight. You're not going to increase conversion rates by 50% in one day by tweeting out 100 new posts. But if you tweet out 100 posts over the next month or two, then you start to convert. You start to drive traffic, you start to spread awareness, increase visibility, social shares, retweets, etc. Same thing on other social media accounts. You want to be consistent and target and tailor directly to your consumer audience and targeted audience by being consistent throughout those channels. So tonality is huge when creating your consumer persona, when creating your marketing strategy, your social media strategy, what type of content you're going to create, what type of posts are you going to create. A lot of stuff is psychological. And so before my clients go into just creating a social media strategy or content strategy, I walk them through the different things that they can go and do first before they actually post a type of content, if they want to do it on their own. So this is just a reminder for you guys, when you're creating your own social media strategies, do it in a way that's effective, do it in a way that's strategic and smart, because if you do it right the first time, you're going to save yourself a ton of time, a ton of money, and you're going to actually increase your revenue. Optimizing your social accounts. There's a lot to talk about optimization today, search engine optimization, AdWords, etc. How do you optimize your social accounts? Social media is much more than just posting really good content, because the way that Google works and search engine works is that if you have good content, no matter where it's through, where the source is, Google finds that content. If it's been shared X amount of times, the more visibility, the more social shares, mentions, etc., the more you're going to rank throughout search engines. And that ranking then drives rapport, traffic, conversion. So a simple step is to be sure to add your bio to your social profiles that explains who you are as a company. Once you set that up, add a link to the website. And make sure the link is visible. I know a lot of it is just set font, but make sure you make the link super visible and it's clickable. Because if I'm a warm lead and I go to your social media profile and I see short bio, and I'm like, okay, this is something that I need, and then I see a website link, I'm going to click on the link. I'm just going to naturally click on a link to check you guys out. So make sure you have that link that's really, really visible to your targeted audience. Remain relevant. with their contact information across all your social media channels. So don't have an email address on one and then your intern email's address on your Facebook account because he set up the email account or the Facebook post. You want to be consistent throughout all your social media channels, whether it's through LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram, whatever medium you're using to promote your content. Make sure that you remain really focused and also engage with who your audience is. Make sure that you have the content in the copy that's going to follow that. And that resonates closely with your contact information. Because they don't know who to contact, and then that's not clear, you lose that lead. And your competition wins it. So that's why it's a simple step, but it's super important. Next, your profile picture should be high resolution and be optimized so that search engines picks up the image for greater traction. So this can be your website photo. If you're an independent consultant, this can be your personal profile picture. Make sure that it's optimized so that the search engine pick that up and it recognizes it. How to create a content strategy. The first step in creating a good content strategy is to create the right type of content that matches the tonality of your brand. So we discussed this. We talked about certain steps is necessary for that and how to actually go about doing that. Number 2 is to create a content calendar and post consistently to increase engagement. As I stated, social media isn't going to happen overnight. Social media conversion isn't going to happen overnight. Website increased traffic isn't going to happen overnight. Nothing happens overnight, right? A lot of these things take time. But if you do it effectively and you do it right, it's going to greatly impact your traffic. It's going to greatly increase your growth. It's going to grow your customer base. So you're going to make sure you do it consistently over time. That way, when you do it consistently over time, it spreads. So it's just like pushing a snowball up the hill. It takes a lot at first. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of content. It takes a lot of learning. You got to decrease your learning curve, etc. But once you get that snowball up the hill, you have so much great content produced that once it rolls, it automates itself. More people retweet it. More people respond. More conversations are engaged. And so that's what you want to focus on. We're creating really, really good content. Number 3, share stats and news about things that's happening in the industry. So this touches on the educational standpoint. If you're a brand in a company, don't just talk about yourself. Promote industry news, specific stats, things that are happening, right? Because if I'm a warm lead and I'm a buyer and I'm looking for a vendor, service, or company to choose, or brand to go with, I want to see other things that's happening that I haven't necessarily thought about in the industry. So this helps you to stand apart and aside from the competition. The 4th is to create topics that are relevant to your brand and industry. So this is where you're going to definitely remain niche specific and focus, centralized to your messaging. Make sure you create topics that are relevant to your brand and industry, because if you don't want to talk about sports and then the next day you talk about something that has nothing to do with sports, fitness, health related, etc. So make sure you stay very, very central to your messaging. It builds a much more effective rapport with your audience. Promotional content. Promotional content should have engaging images that are relatable to the topic. So this is something, with rich pictures or a short snippet of videos, video content that you create yourself. However you want to promote that, you can have links linking back to your website throughout your social media posts that helps amplify that promotional content. And the way that you can do it is very simple. It's place a link in an embedded video to make the post more appealing. Place a call to action that links to a landing page or your website. Let's talk a little bit about a call to action. So, for example, a social strategy that we create as an agency looks like this. Week 1, we create the strategy. We create the consumer persona. We understand what our clients are trying to accomplish, who they're trying to target, why, who they are as a brand. Week 2, we start to develop the content. But we're developing content that's educational. We're developing content that's strategic based on that consumer persona. Week 3 in your social media strategy should look something like this when you're creating your content copy. You want to go deeper into the education. Now you want to include stats about the industry. You want to include relevant topics about the industry. You want to include the reasons why your brand is closely aligned and why you are who you are as a company. Week 4, you then want to start to promote who you are through your services. So for the first couple of weeks, you've already built the effective engagement rapport with your target audience by educating them about who you are, the industry, etc. By week 4 and week 5, you want to create promotional content. You want to create the content that's going to drive traffic back to the website. You're going to create call to actions. You're going to create rich posts, videos, images, things that closely relate to engaging consumers based off of just content alone. And so those call to actions and landing pages and forms and sign-up forms and subscriber lists, all those things can be placed throughout your social media. It's going to greatly impact your traffic. It's going to greatly impact your growth and also convert, because you're consistently promoting, whether it's through email marketing, whether it's through a newsletter, whether it's through an ebook for a subscriber list. You're just capturing those leads and you're nurturing those leads through education and promotional content time over time and time. So that is what I would definitely suggest when you're creating promotional content throughout your social media strategies, because when you focus on that, you then have an effective rapport and engagement, and you now increased your revenue by X amount of percent, right? X amount of percent, all through using a simple, smart, strategic social media strategy that has engaging content and copy. And all these steps are necessary. The necessary components in today's landscape to understand who your buyer is, how do you achieve the goals, how do you increase your traffic, how do you optimize. All these things are necessary components in order to do so. Evaluating. You want to evaluate your content, your copy, how it's been doing, what type of reports have you ran, what are the analytics, how much traffic have you increased, how much engagement have you increased, how many consumers and customers did you convert from point A to point B, from week 1 to week 6, right? Evaluating through data and measuring that data is a very important piece and a relative component throughout your social media channels. So you want to ask yourselves, what are your top performing posts? Once you understand what your top performing posts are, you then can start to micro test and A/B test more posts that are relevant and similar to that same type of content and copy. Because you don't want to necessarily reinvent the wheel. You want the highest ranking traffic, the highest ranking piece of content that increases that traffic and convert those consumers. You want to replicate that. And so you want to focus on creating the same style of content in terms of what type of post, what social media channels are you posting to, what type of account, who your target buyer is, and how that closely relates to them throughout their purchasing decision. Then you want to refine. So first is evaluating the data. Next is refining. Consistent A/B testing of your social media profiles helps with profession, engagement, and increased traffic. Make sure you stay relevant and consistent with your audience. Be sure to add call to actions, educational content, and certain things that promotes your brand, but it stands apart from the competition. And you're going to do it by following this guide. Simple strategies, good content, great copy, consistency, understanding your consumer persona, what your demographic is, how they like to be marketed to, what type of content and copy do they read, how they stay up on social. All these things are really, really relevant and are all psychological aspects of a really, really good social media and really, really good branding and really, really good marketing. Because remember, branding is a really good story. Marketing is a really good conversation. And so if you guys need help with engaging customers, you don't know where to start, where to go about, how to engage, we're an agency, StartMark. We help a lot of our clients and prospects do so through, correcting their social media, copy, their content, creating an effective strategy to help them increase their audience, help them increase their engagement, that then converts to more revenue, close deals, etc. And so you guys can visit us at www.startmark.com. Startmark is STARTMARKE.com, or simply send us an email, marketing@startmark.com. And we are here to help. We're on a mission to help small businesses and startups grow through fixed marketing packages. And we have packages as low as $9.99 month to month, no long-term contract. So if you guys don't know how to actually do this effectively, we're here for you. But if you want to take a shot and do it on your own, I just gave you our playbook. This is our playbook that we use for every company, every client, to help them increase their engagement and rapport. So take a shot at it. If you don't have the time, it is very time consuming, you can use us. So that is the video. Thank you guys for tuning in. I really, really appreciate it. And reach out, send us an email if you have any questions. We're here to help.